Oh, welcome back, scoundrels. I'm Bran,
Robbie. Sarah.
and this is Horror in the Hills, specifically movies with my monsters. Sure. Where I watch a scary movie with my kids, and then we talk about it afterwards. So, what did we watch today?
Scream 2.
And what is Scream 2 about?
Sydney moved to a new town to try to get away, but then after a new movie, Stab, comes out, someone starts serial killing again in her new town.
Yeah, why did she move to a new town?
To try to get away from the serial killing.
Because she's going to college.
Oh.
Did you not watch the movie? Yeah, so overall, what did you guys think?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good too.
Yeah? In what ways?
I liked the history repeats itself aspect.
How so?
Because it kind of gives us time to think about what'll happen next.
Okay, suppose. What about you, Robbie?
I liked it because there was a lot less scary stuff. But I didn't like it when in the lunchroom that guy was singing. Secondhand embarrassment.
So, you answered this already. What are things you didn't like about it?
I didn't like the unnecessary B plot with Gail and Dewey.
What about it, specifically?
It's just unnecessary and took up time that could have been spent doing things for the movie.
Like when they're investigating things and doing research and trying to figure out who the killer was? Those things? Those sound like they're kind of important to the movie, right?
Yeah.
Or is it just the love story stuff?
The love story part.
No. It is sappy, and I will agree with you that love stories are almost always unnecessary in stories. But it is something that could naturally occur between two people, so it adds a level of realism to it too. Especially like they had a relationship start in the first one, didn't they?
I don't remember.
Did they?
I can't remember.
Yes, they did have a relationship start up. It's referenced in this movie. That's what Dewey's most upset about with Gail, not that she wrote a book, but her portrayal of him and how their relationship went in the book.
And I also didn't like everybody's new haircuts.
Did your hair stay the same?
No.
Okay.
I didn't like Gail's haircut and Sydney's haircut.
Oh, just wait if you don't like this one.
I'm getting confused with the haircut because their hair was the same length.
I suppose, but Gail's had red streaks in it.
Yeah, well, I didn't notice that. I did notice. Not till Randy pointed it out. I did notice.
Yeah, Dwight pointed it out.
I didn't notice it until after people said Gail's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so into another question. Did you think it was scarier than the first one? No. I think it was at the same level amount of scary. I thought it was less scary. Why?
Because there weren't really any jump scares.
And some of the stuff I pointed out in the first one, it showing close-ups of the cuts and stuff, the realism with it, that's not as present. Yeah. Why do you think it was about the same?
Because it was just as gory. It had, like, the same amount of kills, too.
I don't remember.
I thought there was a lot more kills in this one.
Well, let's count them up real quick. So the first one you have...
Stevens.
Casey and Steven. And then, is there anybody who's killed between them and the principal?
I don't think so.
You got principal. Then you've got, who's after the principal?
Tatum.
And then cameraman.
Yeah.
And anybody else is actually killed. And then Billy and Stu, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a 7. Okay, so who do we have in this?
The 2 for the opening scene.
Okay. Jada and Omar. Because that's their actors' names. I don't know what their characters'
Then
names are.
Cece.
Then Randy.
Randy.
Yeah, Randy.
Then
I think the 2 cop guys came after Randy.
Yeah, because Stewie was attacked, but he ended up living.
Then there was Derek.
Haley.
Haley.
Then Derek.
And then...
And the 2 killers. So there's like 3 more.
But this still has a higher body count. I would say, with the exception of the one cop, the deaths in this are pretty mild in comparison to some of the deaths in the first one.
What one cop? The second
Got
one or the first one?
The second one.
What?
So he gets the pipe through his head.
Yeah.
So that's the most graphic thing in this one. Whereas the first one opens with Cece being gutted, and it shows it. Not her, not the process, but the aftermath. And then, like I said, the close-up of Tatum's arm, and when she gets crushed by the garage door. And, let's see here, who else is there? I don't know, maybe it's pretty balanced there. That's why I'm okay with you guys watching these ones, because they're not really that bad. Honestly, Deep Red was probably a lot worse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot of close-ups of people getting their faces smashed, the decapitation at the end, throats being slit, cleavers going into people.
The worst one was when I don't remember his name. I think it was Carl or something. Carla.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was-
When he got his head run over.
Yeah, that was the worst one.
All right. So, the cafeteria scene. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more, Robbie?
No.
Okay. There's not a whole lot that needs to be said. What did you think of it?
I didn't like it. I got a little secondhand embarrassment.
See, of all the things that are unnecessary in the movie, that's probably the most unnecessary.
Yeah. I had so much secondhand embarrassment, so I was bumping my head against the couch.
But I mean, it does serve a purpose, though. It doesn't have to go on as long or something. And it is really cheesy. Nobody does that in real life. But it does serve the purpose of setting up the giving away his letters. Which is a big no-no. Excuse me. So, the movie within a movie, where we start this movie. That was a lot. Did that play out the same as the opening for the first movie?
Not exactly, but it was very similar.
Yeah.
So what was different?
Well, those 2 people first off, and
No, not the opening of the movie.
oh,
The opening of Stab. Because it's a retelling of the first movie, right?
well, I don't remember whoever it was, but they weren't. It wouldn't make get the popcorn ready and get ready for a bath because the popcorn would burn.
Well, okay,
All
so
the that's what's getting more. All the water was running.
that's the difference. Instead of making popcorn and getting ready to sit down and watch a movie, the woman is getting ready to take a shower, and then we find out that she had popcorn on.
Yeah.
Because that's, well, we'll get into it here in a bit. What else was there anything else different that you noticed, that you could notice?
She didn't have a boyfriend.
That we really got to see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
she
it-
said
and
that
it
she
cut out
didn't
the
have a
po-
boyfriend.
And it cut out the part of killing the boyfriend. It
Well,
just jumped to
But it was
throwing the
jumping around things, right? So, again, that could have happened and we just didn't get to see it.
But she said that she didn't have a boyfriend.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
I don't remember if she says so or not in the first movie at all.
She said she had a boyfriend in the first one,
She
but
said
in-
that she was gonna call her boyfriend and he was gonna
beat him
beat
up.
Yeah,
Okay, so are you talking about Stab or the first movie?
the first movie.
And
Okay.
instead, she said she didn't have a boyfriend right now.
So, the changes between what actually happened, big fat air quotes around that, and the in-movie, why do you think that happened? What are some reasons you think that might have happened?
I don't know. Because Gail was lied. She said that the cameraman was gutted, but his throat was cut.
Did it say that it was based on the book?
It said it was based on a book.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it did, because I remember seeing Gail Weathers' name at the beginning. So, is that something that Gail Weathers might have said in her book to spice things up a little bit?
Yeah.
Or could it have been a studio choice to add in some nudity?
It was probably just a studio choice.
I mean, it could go either way, right?
Because maybe Gail just didn't want it to make it as realistic because he wouldn't try to make fun of something that happened to her. And she doesn't want to remember it, but she needed to write it down to try to get over with it.
Well, she still wrote the book. And she wasn't there. She wasn't impacted by it yet. She wasn't impacted by what happened in Woodsboro until the very end, right?
Yeah.
When she shows up at the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is a little bit there. But Gail admits, her previous cameraman, that she did it because it sounds better, not because it's the actual truth. And sometimes people will do that. And the studio has an interest in throwing in a higher body count. So maybe they separate Steven's death and Casey's death. So that way they don't happen at the same time. And it gives them something to do a little bit later on. And it gives them that opportunity to throw in nudity. So you could have both, and both of those things could have happened. Gail could have not told the story completely correctly, and then the studio embellished it even more. But it has that kernel of truth that helps people latch on to it more. And what is that one kernel of truth? Pun intended.
I don't know what you're going after. I'm trying
The popcorn!
Oh.
Pun intended.
I was trying to think of it. Something that has to do with corn. There was nothing with corn in the other movie.
Yeah, there was. She was popping popcorn.
I was thinking corn directly, like corn on the cob or canned corn.
It's still called a popcorn kernel.
I know, but I was thinking of corn, not popcorn.
Anyway, so that's how it's easy to pass some things off, or it makes it easier to pass things off with stories like Gail's a journalist, but she embellishes and doesn't always tell the truth. But as long as you have those pieces of truth that people can latch onto and they know it's real, it helps sell the rest of it. Like, do you remember Sherlock?
No.
The BBC one?
No.
It's been a while since we watched that. But the big thing about Moriarty and that, when Sherlock finally figures out what's going on at the end of, what is that, season 2? Series 2? Yeah. You're useless. I think it's at the end of series 2, or near the end of series 2, when Sherlock's figuring out what's going on with Moriarty. Everything that Moriarty says is a lie, but he's wrapped it in a truth. It's that way, oh no, this is true, so obviously everything else must be true. And that could go the other way too. Somebody may be telling the truth, but if there's a lie, people will sometimes spin that around too to make the rest of it seem like a lie. Alrighty. Any questions? Anything else there?
No.
Who did you think was the killer at first?
I didn't really suspect any because we don't really get a lot from Mickey other than, right, to suspect him. I think Dewey and Randy were my main suspects until Randy got killed and Dewey and Gail were out looking for the killer.
Why were they your main suspects?
Wait, no. Derek and Dewey. Because Dewey pointed out that it was convenient that the killer didn't damage his veins. Or,
Didn't hit a nerve?
yeah. And then...
And only, well, in that moment, Dewey's suspicious earlier, or whatever. no, it's around the same. It's more convenient that Derek wasn't hurt that badly at all, that the killer just cut him and ran instead of trying to do more damage.
And then Derek pointed out that it was convenient that it was a shame that Dewey didn't get there until the killer disappeared.
There's a lot of really good setup for a lot of people.
But Cotton was another one.
What about you, Robbie?
I thought it would be the cameraman or Gail.
For obvious reasons?
Yeah.
Because she's going after her next story?
Yeah.
But why the cameraman? Because he's brand new.
And he's really scared.
But it was awfully convenient that he disappeared to go get donuts and stuff, and then they got a phone call right afterwards. Anyways, go ahead.
And also, what if he was tricking them by pretending to be scared?
See? Just like, what if Dewey was only pretending that he was that injured with his limp and his messed up arm?
Yeah.
So, it's not a complete giveaway until it is. But what does Mickey have with him a lot of times?
I didn't really notice.
A phone?
You guys have one?
Binoculars?
A camcorder.
Oh.
Oh.
But it's something that I just noticed a lot this time too, but I've watched this movie a few times, so my brain was more free to notice it. But he has a camcorder a lot of times. And before Gil and Dewey are attacked, what happens?
He's playing tapes.
The tapes of the killings.
But I also thought it would have been the recording guy because he has a camera.
Right?
But he gave them the tapes. And she said those weren't her tapes.
Yeah.
Which adds suspicion to it. Maybe. Except you hear, if you pay attention, you hear things click over and switch in the background. But it could have been a recording that had started and he recorded over it. Because it starts off with the camera guy recording things candidly, where they don't really, times when he didn't need to be recording, but he was. Like when Gail and Dewey were talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he could have got a guy to make those recordings for him and then gave them to him, and then he could have gave those recordings.
That's getting awfully complicated. And then you're putting yourself at risk of getting caught easier. So, what did you think of the killers?
I didn't like that they weren't really suspects. X really in your brain because we don't get a lot with Mickey. We don't get a whole lot with Miss Loomis. They don't really do anything suspicious.
Well, I don't know. Because she pops up conveniently all the time.
And she bugs Gail Weathers.
She is very interested in Gail. But she also knows that she has to stay away from Sydney until the time is right. Because if Sydney had seen her beforehand,
she would have gotten caught.
She would have recognized her sooner. I know there's some stuff with Mickey a little bit, but
the thing with the sequel at the beginning, but that's just a discussion. There's nothing really suspicious about it. Doesn't click in your brain till right at the end.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't a whole lot that does stand out as suspicious other than some looks here and there and timing and...
But Derek kind of had a look, too.
Occasionally.
That's part of the reason why I suspected him.
So, let's stick with Mickey for a minute. Do you think it's a problem that he disappears for a while? Or did you even notice?
I didn't even notice.
Is it shortly after the cafeteria scene is the last time you see him until the very end? See his face, anyways. Till the very end.
Yeah.
See, I don't think it's a problem because, like, your problem with Gail and Dewey, how it's unnecessary. What is he really gonna do anyways besides just be there? I mean, he could just be there, but like it would draw the movie out and add a bunch to it to force him into scenes just to keep him in frame, right?
Yeah.
But I think this movie is trying to subvert that everybody's a suspect thing too, by making it to two people that you don't think anything about. Whereas, everybody else gets a spotlight on them. Very similar to the first one, and even if it's just for a moment. But there are some that it's very clearly like, no, this person really can't be. And like they really lean into Derek being the suspect a lot because of Billy. But we're also kind of viewing this from Sydney's perspective, in a way.
Yeah.
So, especially in those moments, you're really in Sydney's perspective. So he would look a little bit more suspicious, because that's how Sydney's viewing it. And rightfully so, given her history.
Yeah. Maybe it could have just been her seeing the look Derek had, because it was very similar to Billy's.
At times, yeah. And sometimes he seems like he's not very understanding.
Yeah.
Which is what I was trying to work into talking about next, is Derek and that dynamic. Because that is a difficult situation to be in, right?
Yeah.
I think he could have been a little bit more understanding and been like, okay, Sydney, you can have some room. I'm going to go chill over here. It'd actually be better to have Derek disappear, I think, and have Mickey hanging about, keeping an eye on her for Derek, than the other way. Because then it keeps Mickey fresh in your mind, and he's conveniently going to always be around anyways, right?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think Sydney's in the right for the way she feels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain. And I've kind of already gotten into it, but...
Because she's already had all of her friends killed or injured, right? And one of her scenes in the part she gets in her play, it could be really scary for her. Because they've got the fake knives stabbing.
And the masks.
And the masks.
And the robes.
And she's already stressed, so she's suffering. It's showing that she's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. When something traumatic happens to you and you're trying to process it mentally, sometimes it can create flashbacks. So how much of that scene when she's in the play is actually happening, or how much of it might be her brain playing tricks on her? Could be all, could be none, could be a little bit of both. I think there's a good possibility that probably Mickey was there and sneaking on and off a little bit, because there's a lot happening. But because she's seen the ghost face, she starts seeing it on the other characters too, or the other figures. Just my own theory, I think it's a little bit of both. Because there are moments where you see Ghostface move like he's going off set.
But wouldn't Gus notice? Or any of the other actors?
Gus was sitting a ways back, and there's a lot going on.
But it would stand out because there was a lot of brown and his robes are black.
He was wearing brown robes. In that scene, he was wearing brown robes.
Oh.
To blend in. That's why I said it could be a little bit of both. Was there anything that the movie made you think about not directly related to the movie?
No.
No.
Because just like the first one, this one's making comments about very specific things. So one of those, what's the biggest probably running theme throughout the movie? And that's what I'm asking about. I'm trying to see if it made you think of it.
History repeats itself? No.
It has to do with Mickey.
With the sequels to movies?
Nope.
Movies affecting the serial killing?
There you go. Violent movies inspiring people to do violent things. So that was kind of a theme in the first one too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Movies don't create killers. Movies make killers more creative. Because it's a line from Billy.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a theme there. It's more of a theme in this one. And we're going to see that theme actually continue into the third one. So maybe you can pay a little bit more attention for it. But Mickey's trying to play off of that sentiment. Is that a argument that makes a lot of sense, though? Do you guys think maybe that movies might cause people to be more violent? Or video games or music or anything?
Yeah, maybe. Because all of my friends play the violent video games and they play fight a lot.
But are they actually being mean and violent all the time?
No.
Or are they just playing?
They're playing.
Okay. What about you, Robbie? What do you think? Do you think movies and video games and stuff affect people?
No.
Why not?
Maybe my one friend at school, if he's telling the truth, he says that all he does is play video games.
But do you think it causes him to be more violent and stuff, or?
Oh, he is really rude.
But that's not the question.
No.
Okay. I personally don't think so. If anybody is susceptible to that kind of influence, they already have those impulses as it is. That part of existing already exists within them. Because how many violent movies exist?
A lot.
Hundreds, thousands? And same with video games, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are tens of millions of people that consume violent media, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if movies and video games and stuff influence people to be more violent, wouldn't there be more violence in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you stop and consider history, violence as entertainment has been a part of our history for like all of it, or part of our cultures for like all of it. What did the Romans used to do?
Make people fight other people and lions and animals.
The Colosseums,
Yeah.
the gladiators and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So, violence as entertainment has always been a part of our existence. And as time has progressed, we have gotten less and less and less violent. Are there still violent people? Sure. Why are they violent? A lot of reasons. Sometimes because their chemicals in their brains aren't working properly. Sometimes it's from brain damage. Sometimes people are just bad people. And that's just a reality that we have to accept. And like the brain trauma doesn't have to be inflicted either. It could just be somebody had an accident. But because of that, parts of their brain don't work the way that they should anymore. And they become more violent. So that's kind of what they're getting at with some of this. That it's not media that causes people to be violent. Some people are just violent. I mean, Billy's a real good example of that. Because he isn't willing to accept the reality of what happened with his family. And he's blaming other people. And he's acting out in that way. But movies didn't cause him to do that. Sydney's mom didn't cause him to do that. He made that choice himself. You guys have any thoughts on that you want to add?
Nope.
No.
No. So what do you think the scariest part was in this movie?
The second cop.
When Mickey he stood up after who was it?
After being shot?
Yeah.
At the end?
Yeah.
So I think we all know, but maybe there's new listeners. Why did you think that was the most scary, Sarah?
'Cause, like I've said in other episodes where we watched slasher movies, I don't really like the gory stuff. I'm not a blood person.
And it was really gory?
Mm.
And you, Robbie, why was that the most scary for you?
Because I wasn't expecting it.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting the other person to stand
Miss
up.
Loomis?
Yeah.
Which is what it wants you to think. So it's a cheap jump scare, but an effective one regardless. It wasn't the part where Mrs. Loomis jumps through the curtain.
No.
The one that you actually jumped for. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was scary though. Yeah, any closing thoughts?
No.
Nope.
Nothing else you guys want to talk about?
Nope, took care of that at the beginning.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Do all the normal social media stuffs, whatever. But most importantly, if you're digging what we're doing here, share it with somebody else who you think might enjoy listening to us prattle on about movies like we think we know what we're talking about. That's a lie. We're experts.
We certainly are getting better.
If you want to help us out a little bit, like I say, go ahead and share this with somebody you think you'll enjoy. But also, if you enjoy tabletop gaming, we've got our other channel, Weird Cat Gaming, that is on YouTube. Go check that out. And give us some followings there. For the purpose of conversation, what do you think about media's influence on society? Do you think that movies make killers, or do movies create killers, or do movies make killers more creative, or either of those at all? Well, I bundled that up. Anyways, thanks again for listening. Toodles.